Welcome to today's New Jersey Forensic Accountant discussion. Today we're going to talk about a topic that we've been getting requests for constantly in the last 3 or 4 weeks because of the election. And this is a request about voter fraud. Does it really exist? Or sometimes called election fraud. And I have to tell you that it really does exist. And you don't have to take it from me. You just have to take it from that there have been 1,071 proven instances of voter fraud. 938 criminal convictions. Okay, so this is serious stuff. It does happen. People actually go to jail. Let me just give you a little flavor of what we're talking about here. Okay, so for example, in 2013, Kimberly, who's from Mississippi, here she is in jail, she was convicted and sentenced to jail for altering the vote. Okay, so she went in and changed the vote to reflect what she wanted, not what the people wanted. In 2017, in Florida, again, they altered the vote. They went in there and they changed the ballots. In 2016, in Pennsylvania, okay, they were convicted of altering the vote. Now, these are all altering the vote cases. I just picked out 4 of them. And that really has a lot of repercussions because what you're doing is changing the whole. It's not just you're changing one ballot. Okay, you're changing the vote count. And this is 2013 again, convicted of altering the vote count. Now, how it typically works is someone suspects there's voting fraud. Okay, sometimes they're watching. The sheriffs may be watching the vote to see if there's voting issues, but a lot of times it's after the fact. Okay, something was wrong. They'll bring in the forensic accountants. We'll go back, do sampling. We'll actually go in and look and compare what happened, check the vote count, check the county records, check signatures, and then testify in court. At that point is when these convictions happen. So the important thing to know is that if they have 1,000 convictions, there's probably 10 or 100 times that don't get caught. Now let's actually talk about how voting fraud, what is voting fraud? Okay, here's some of the things people do in order to perpetrate voting fraud. False registration, okay? This is where you registered under a fake name or a fake address. Okay, it happens a lot. You see there's an empty lot. You go in, you register, tell them that's where you live. You go in and you vote. Duplicate voting. You're registered in multiple locations. Now, we actually had a case where we had someone on the stand testifying, and the question we were asking was, did you vote for so-and-so? And he said, yes, I did. And we knew that that vote took place at a county where he did not live. And so later on in the trial, we asked the question. We said, well, you said in, 2017 you voted for so-and-so. Is that right? He says, yes, I did. He said, but then later on in your testimony, you said in 2017 you lived in this town next door. Now, how did you vote? Well, obviously, at that point, he basically admitted he committed voter fraud. And it wasn't just him. Lots of other people did it, too. So those are some of the techniques. But this does happen a lot. You'd be surprised. Fraudulent use of absentee ballots. Now, this is the big concern with the ballots. When you have, let's say, maybe 30 or 40 absentee ballots in the town one year, and then the next year you have 300 or 400, okay, what happens is the opportunity for fraud goes up exponentially. So these absentee ballots really you have to really check them. Okay, you got to check the signatures that are on file with the voting commission against the signatures that are on the absentee ballots. There's all kinds of fraud. A lot of what we just talked about was based on that. Buying votes. Okay, you go into a retirement village, you get 100 people, you say, okay, here's your absentee ballots. Fill them out. I'll pay you X amount of money, or even sometimes we'll bus them to the voting polls, let them get off, and then give them a free meal or something like that. This is illegal, but it does happen. Illegal assistance at the polling place. You go into a polling booth, and if it's your first time or you haven't voted in a while, sometimes you get a little confused. Well, guess what? The people there with to help you with vote can actually go in and maybe steer you towards or click a different button you're not aware of. So that's illegal assistance. Ineligible voter, people who are not registered or don't qualify to vote, voting. Okay, That's why you need to do all the the appropriate checks at the county level and make sure they register, make sure they live where they say they live, who they say they are. Altering the vote count. This is a big one. I mean, this is really, the other stuff is it's very time consuming, to bust people in and go back and change absentee ballots. But this here, you could take a 10,000 votes for one candidate and make it 1,000. I mean, this is most of the real serious stuff is right here where you actually change it at the precinct level. So, and if the controls are weak or not appropriate, it's easy to circumvent. Ballot petition fraud. This happens a lot where someone wants to get something on the ballot and they need 100,000 signatures. Well, they only got 80,000, so they'll forge the other 20. Again, if no one's checking this stuff, it can happen. So let's take a look again. I want to take a look at what's the Heritage Foundation. They have a bunch of cases that you guys can go on if you really want to look at this stuff. Here's their website. All the states are on here. These are just a couple for Pennsylvania I want to talk about. Okay, here's one, impersonating fraud at the polls. Okay, someone was doing something they shouldn't do. They were actually convicted. Fraudulent use of absentee ballots right here. Big one. This is a really, really big concern in the 2020 election. Okay, and we won't know the results until, what the actual, how much fraud there was and whether it was material or whether it had an effect on some of the elections for many months. Criminal conviction, fraudulent use of absentee ballots, ineligible voting, right? So these are just 4 things that happen in, the state of Pennsylvania that actually were convicted. Okay, these are people who were actually charged, tried, and convicted. So listen, I hope that you guys, understand. I just want you to understand voting fraud does exist. There's some ways people do it, and typically we will get involved. We'll spot anomalies. We'll go in and then actually do the forensic accounting work, get the proof, go to court, testify, and then these people will go to jail. That's what we do as forensic accountants. So listen, if you guys have any questions, leave them below. And if you did enjoy this, please, like the video and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks a lot. Bye.